This is Brian with Ruin Your Knees, and I've never been more excited to review a shoe for Ruin Your Knees than this barefoot style basketball shoe. Now, this is a little bit out of the ordinary for us. We've done a lot of barefoot style like trail running shoes, hiking shoes, training shoes, road shoes, but Xero Shoes sent me a sample of these basketball shoes. I've been waiting for basketball shoes probably for over a decade that are more of a barefoot style. This is called the X1, and it's a low top. They come in high top. I want to get into the features here, but I want to talk a little bit about what is this idea of barefoot shoes, minimalist shoes, is for basketball or in general, right? So I would say over a decade ago, I started trying these minimalist shoes. I actually got to meet the founder of this company, Xero Shoes, after he had been on Shark Tank. He introduced us to some of his product, and I've been sold on minimalist shoes ever since. So the idea is that you have a lower shoe, so it's flatter to the ground, like you don't have as chunky of a heel, and you have, generally speaking, a zero difference between the heel height and the toe height, which is not the case with a lot of shoes. And so I've been running for years in lots of minimalist shoes, walking around them, and some of the theory behind them is that you're flat to the ground, so you're grounded, you're less likely to roll. You also get wider toe boxes, you have more room for your foot to kind of spread out naturally to get a nice sort of like grounded foundation. And then also some people think, and I personally think, that my arches, my Achilles, my calves, my whole leg chain, basically all the way up to the hip, has gotten a lot stronger using minimalist shoes. And I did phase them in, right? So going back to basketball, I started using all these running shoes, and I got really disillusioned with a lot of the basketball shoes. They were really like overbuilt and stiff, and I felt like they were so tall that I'd actually almost like leverage my foot over and roll it, and I wish there was a more minimalist shoe. So I've been playing basketball now for years in goofy shoes. Like these were from New Balance. These are an old minimalist shoe they had. I've played forever in these and worn them out, right? And lots of people give me weird looks at the gym, but I can tell you, I have never been hurt playing in these shoes at the gym. Obviously they're worn out. So lately I've been trying out other shoes, and until these basketball shoes have arrived, which I'm excited to review, I've been running and playing basketball in these. They're called the Prio, the Xero Shoes Prio. And what's interesting about them is they have this Huarache sandal design. When you snug up your laces, it pulls these straps tight and cinches around the foot. But then this shoe also is supported for lateral movement left and right. And it's got enough cushion for me that when I'm jumping, pivoting, so forth, it's been fine. And as you can tell, I'm getting older. My hair's turning gray. I'm in my 40s, and I've had good success so far wearing minimalist shoes, but I've been waiting for a basketball shoe. And so, like, historically, Kobe Bryant was probably the first one to really get interested in a much more minimalist shoe. And Kobe's had some kind of minimalist type shoes over the years. And there have been some sort of lower, wider shoes in the world of basketball. A good example is Ben Patrick from Knees Over Toes. If you're familiar with his channel, he actually has played a lot in the Prio. You can see him using the Prio, and he's now developed his own shoe. I think it's called the Uncivilized Sneaker. So he's been working on a shoe. And an NBA player, Justin Holiday, actually wore, I think, a prototype of these last year in the playoffs against the Timberwolves. So there's some kind of a groundswell in the basketball world for a barefoot style shoe. And John over at Xero Shoes, who's like, I think he's the head of product development, he was telling me lots of the NBA teams are already using minimalist style shoes for training, not specifically maybe on the court, but definitely in the gym to increase the range of motion of people's like feet and lower legs and so forth, right? So, but here we go, right? So a basketball shoe. So let's look at it. It looks, actually, I think this is a relatively conservative entry from Xero Shoes. Like, this is pretty sturdy, but like, I don't feel like it's overbuilt. Like, you can see it's got a nice sturdy sole. It's got good basketball grip on the bottom. It does have, interestingly enough, that sort of Huarache strap right there for like lateral support on the outside of the foot. Plenty of lacing structure here, right? So if you try to play basketball in minimalist shoes, a lot of you will discover there's way too much play in the shoe, especially like a knit shoe. This one is much more locked down with the lacing. The materials are just more durable. Like this tongue here is very thick. It's got like a neoprene feel. If you look at the back side of the heel, this is soft, but it's thick, right? So if you're used to minimalist shoes, for a person who's been using them for years, this feels fairly built up, right? So I think this is a smart entry into the basketball world. If you have not tried minimalist shoes, I would not recommend just jumping into these and going 100%. You're going to want to phase them in. And like with true minimalists, Barefoot style shoes, you probably want to start working them in about 10% a week. These are a little more built up. I probably think you could build them in faster, but you want to take your time and work them in. So this is my just initial impression. I think this looks like a great first start. I think there's going to be more and more companies experimenting with these shoes that are flat, low to the ground, wide, and still laterally supportive, right? I think Xero Shoes and other companies are probably going to diversify, like have a more minimalistic shoe, have a more built-up version for whatever your preference is. But I think this would be a good one to be testing out, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to post a second review after I've been on the court with these and tried them out a bunch. So this is just sort of my initial impression. Style-wise, I'm happy with it, right? Like I think they look good, and they actually come in like a lime and a cherry color, which would be more fun maybe, and a white color. But initial impressions out of the box, there's lots of nice little details like with the speckles. Oh, and interestingly enough, similar to their minimalist type barefoot running shoes, you can pull out the insole, which I wouldn't do for basketball. And the inside of that, I don't know if you can see, it's actually stitched there. It's stitched, and so I don't think you would want to pull the insole out. You could drop in a different one if you wanted, but you can see this insole has holes in it, so it's nice and light. It's comfortable. It's a light shoe, so I'll be bringing more details, but I wanted to have just an initial like excited video about this because I really have been waiting for this. People at the gym are tired of me talking about this, and as a person getting older playing basketball, I think these style shoes help strengthen the legs and maybe give me more longevity in the basketball gym. I'm trying to keep my dunk going as long as I can, so I'm getting older, but so far it's working. So more to come, but I'm curious if anyone else has been waiting for these, what your thoughts are, and just sort of like basketball, barefoot, minimalist thoughts in general, right? Because it's a little different from our trail running stuff, but I think basketball is the ultimate test for sort of barefoot philosophy because it's such a like intense sport from side to side, all the landing, taking off. You do need some kind of cushion, but we also want to be learning how to land, learn how to be balanced, go right, go left. So it should be a lot of fun to see what happens. And I think the X1 from Xero Shoes is a really great first try from Xero Shoes, and I'll have more info for you later. Thanks for watching.